What's up, everyone? It's Dave from the Military Millionaire community, and today I want to talk to you about Grant Cardone, Uncle G, the man, the myth, the 10x legend, to decide if he is actually in trouble per all the bankrupt videos, or if he's a brilliant marketer. Now, if you didn't see it, there was this clip that Grant Cardone posted the other day where he's talking about going bankrupt.
Okay. Now, on the rumors of my bankruptcy that is soon to happen, yes, it's true. Okay. I'm losing the plane, the condo, all the apartments, 8,000 units.
We're going to dig into this in just a minute, but first and foremost, I would just like to say that there were an awful lot of people that came out of the woodwork just slamming Grant Cardone about this, and all of a sudden they were just like raining hate, right? And that's fine. Like, that's all well and good. There's people who've done it in the past. I mean, Meet Kevin has done it with a couple different videos. There's a feud going back there. But for those of you who came out just because of this video, I would just ask you, like, when are you going to grow a pair and be able to speak honestly about your opinion about somebody when they're not in trouble? I mean, you guys all came out to kick a man while he was down, but nobody, I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking smack previously. So I just want to throw that out there. If you're going to talk smack, like if you hate what I'm saying, go ahead and throw it out there. Don't wait for me to have some like vulnerability moment where you finally are like, oh, now I can get him. No, tell me. I want to hear it. That's how I get better. Now, Maestro, cue the intro. All right, look, before we dig into all of this, there's a few things you got to know about Uncle G. And if you don't know Grant Cardone, first off, what rock have you been hiding under? And second, you should. But look, Grant is first and foremost a sales and marketing guy. And if you hear him talk, that's how he got started. He got started selling cars. He got started sales, more sales, marketing. Real estate came later on. Now, not to say that he wasn't investing previously, but Grant did not grow up as a real estate agent. Grant did not come up as the real estate entrepreneur. Grant came up as a sales and marketing guy, right? And in the sales and marketing world, you got to be a couple of different things. You got to be charismatic. He is. You got to be energetic. He is. You got to be personable. He definitely is. And you've got to be polarizing. And I'm telling you right now, if you haven't figured it out, he is polarizing. Now, a great example of some polarizing people that I think do this very well, whether you love them or hate them, which is great because this will prove the point, Donald Trump and Ben Shapiro are two that I see all the time that are great at this, right? You either love or you hate them. There's not really a middle ground, right? It's pretty one way or the other. And when they do that, the people who love you will share your stuff, the people who hate you will share your stuff, and you get attention both ways. Now, what I think Grant Cardone did here is that, and he kind of talked about this and hinted about this in a video that didn't get nearly as many views as the Bankrupt one, but he noticed that all of a sudden there was nothing getting covered outside of coronavirus, COVID, whatever, on YouTube, Facebook, the news, anywhere. All of a sudden, attention was very hard to get. That's all anyone was talking about. People were shut down, tuning out everything, and focused on that. And Grant found a way to turn a ton of attention his direction. People have been sharing about him. People have been sharing who he is, their thoughts on him, dogging on him, showing their support for him, loving on him, whatever. And if you watch the video and you pay attention, you can hear somebody in the background, probably Jared, giving him like tidbits. Like at one point he says, you can have all my real estate, my $1.5 billion worth of real estate for, and someone in the background yells, 10 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar. Well, that right there should tell you that this is bogus, right? Because if somebody was going to liquidate, foreclosure, whatever, bankruptcy, whatever, the bank is not going to let you sell $1 million asset for $100,000. They're not. That's not going to happen. They will not let you sell for 10 cents on the dollar. It's just not how this works, right? There's debt, there's all these other things. First off, it's a very long process. Second, nobody's going to let you take loans and just for nothing, right? There's no way at all, right? At all. So I think this was a very well-placed marketing ad and scheme to get more attention back so that he could keep growing his stuff. Now, I will say that he has been doing some, he's sold a lot of his stuff at cost online. I know there's talk that he furloughed or laid off some employees, normal stuff. I mean, a lot of businesses have done that over the last month. If you can't afford to pay people, you can't afford to pay people. This is kind of an uncharted water in case you haven't noticed. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But real quick, I want to touch on some pros and cons for Grant Cardone so you can kind of understand where I stand. But first, I feel kind of obligated to do this. That's right, I'm wearing one of his shirts. I wanted to buy this in 2019 when I went to the 10X Growth Conference, but they were all sold out when I went up there. So I took advantage of this huge sale and I got a very cheap shirt that it's actually a pretty nice jersey. I wear it around the house, it's embroidered. I'm a fan, so thanks, Uncle G. Now look, a few pros for Grant Cardone. The first one is that he's bigger than life. What Grant has done is he epitomizes the journey from the drug addict, like struggling young individual to, multi-millionaire. And so he has shown this path, right? He's bigger than life. What Grant does is he allows people to see what is possible and to feel what is possible. Like, I'm a huge fan of that aspect of him being like the shining beacon of, hey, if I can do this, why can't you? That's his whole mantra. Again, he's a sales whiz. He's a marketing whiz. He even pointed this out at the 10X Growth Conference, but he paid for the most expensive seat at the 2018 World Series right behind home plate so that he could get his face and his name on television. If you're gonna go watch the game anyway, that's a really smart marketing move. He is right there. That's a status play that signifies where he's at, shows he's having fun, gets some recognition out there. He's very smart with these kinds of things. And then he's got the 10X brand, right? The 10X Rule is a great book. I definitely recommend you read it, whether you like him or not, because it talks about making your goals bigger and getting out there and taking action and making bigger goals and bigger goals. And I'll tell you firsthand that this concept of bigger goals has helped me a lot in growing my business and growing my platform. I bought a 40-unit apartment complex. When I was thinking I was gonna buy 3, I was like, let's 10X it to 30, and then I bought 40. So it works, it definitely works. Now you gotta be careful with that. You can't just buy any deal. You can't go crazy just to hit that number, but setting larger than life goals is extremely beneficial in my opinion. So I'm a huge fan of the whole 10X brand. Grant is the king of motivation. This guy has so much energy and his conferences are just off the chart. The 10X conference is wild. Now, yeah, there's sales pitches, right? People, oh no, sales, it's a sales fest. The information I got there was great. John Maxwell, one of the best speakers I've ever heard. Interestingly enough, so is Steve Harvey. He had a great story and he spoke there 2 years ago. And he puts on these great shows. So yes, there's some sales pitches, people pushing products, but they're people that I like. The information was great. I almost bought a couple of the different things that were being offered. Some really good information there. Great networking. Got to hang out with a ton of real estate investors. Took an Airbnb with a bunch of other investors and hung out. Just an overall great conference, great atmosphere, super motivating. And even if you don't like everything that's being said, just the environment and getting around people trying to improve themselves is gonna work wonders for you. Now, I've said these last few things on the pros side a few times in this video, but he's a voice of inspiration. He's a voice for the little people, right? Like Grant, Uncle G, has done a great job of bringing himself down to everybody's level and saying, look, come with me, like this is what's possible. And I think the Uncle G thing is a great way for him to have positioned himself. I think Grant did a wonderful job. His entire marketing funnel and everything is positioned very, very well. Now, I am going to talk about some of the cons. There are some things that I disagree with him about, and that's the way it is. So the first and foremost is my wife doesn't allow me to watch his YouTube videos because I don't want to say he's scatterbrained, but some of his stuff is just, he's got a ton of ideas floating around. They don't always come out super formulated and it drives her nuts. Now, I like it, but again, he could probably do a better job structuring some of his content, but as a content producer, I understand that to get this much information out, I mean, he's incredible with how much stuff he puts out. It's not always gonna be this perfectly well thought out, articulated thing. It's gonna be, I got a film and I have an idea, boom, 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 boom. And that's the way it goes. And I'm a fan of that. I think it's very genuine. There are some transparency things that I think Grant could do better. So obviously it's not, as a big syndication guy, which for those of you who don't know, just means that he pools people's money together to buy large apartments, and he buys Class A apartments, very nice, high-end stuff. It doesn't fit his model to tell people that investing in single family homes is a good idea. So Grant has owned single family homes. I believe he owns the condo he lives in right now. I didn't take the time to fact check all that, but I'm pretty sure he does. In fact, I think he'd be kind of silly not to if he's going to be there for a long time, and it looks like he's set up shop pretty well there. But he talks about not buying single family homes, not investing in single family homes, and jumping all the way in. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I'm currently renting, right? So I'm not saying that I disagree with him 100%. Currently, I'm renting this home, and I'm renting out bedrooms from it to help pay my mortgage or my rent. But I have owned the residences that I live in as well. So I think there's pros and cons to both, depending on your situation. So kind of wish he'd be a little bit more transparent sometimes about the situations of surrounding him and single families and condo and stuff, but it doesn't necessarily fit his model, and really it's none of our business, right? It's not a huge thing. Again, he only pushes the apartments and the syndications because that fits what he's doing, but I think there's other opportunities out there, and I think there's a lot of, I own 15 units that are not large ones. I also am a general partner on a 146 unit apartment complex. So, if you're interested in syndicating, feel free to let me know. Be happy to talk with you about it and see if it's something that you want to do. But I've also done, whether partnerships or solo, bought single families, duplexes, 10 units, triplexes, whatever, you name it. And so there's a lot of different opportunities there. And I think that it all depends on your style of investing. I think that being transparent is good. That's one of my core values, transparency. You guys who followed for a while have heard me talk about failures and even the lawsuit I'm in. So, it doesn't always go well, and I'm fine talking about that. If you want to hear more about that, be sure you follow, subscribe, smash the like button, and get notified of some of these videos, because I'm definitely going to update everyone on that lawsuit when it's done. But hasn't stopped me from buying more real estate. So transparency, I think, is very key. He could do a little bit better at that, but it kind of fits into the big salesy thing, right? You don't want to necessarily always show your downsides. You want to show your upsides, and I understand that. I get it. There are two major things that I don't necessarily like about his style of syndication. Number one, he always talks about gross assets under management, which is cool, but a lot of syndicators, the whole syndication community does this. They talk about, I got $100 million worth of assets under management. Yeah, but if you factor in how much of that deal you actually own as the syndicator vice all your investors, and you factor in the equity vice the debt and all this, it's really not like you own. It'd be like buying a Ferrari on financing and you still owe for 99% of it, but you say you have a $400,000 car, so you have $400,000. No, you don't. You still have to pay $399,000 or whatever that math is on that car. So if that makes sense. It's not lying. It's not really even misleading. I just, from a transparency standpoint, I like to say I have ownership in, or I own a part of, the assets under management is correct. It just, sometimes it's used as more of a salesy, I own $1 billion worth of real estate, as opposed to look at what we all did, right? So it's just kind of to me. The second thing I'm not a huge fan of, and this is just the way that I buy, Grant only buys really attractive properties. It is no doubt, his apartment complexes are top of the line. They're class A. He's probably got great tenants. They're probably not really struggling to pay right now. Great areas, great neighborhoods, super high end, which is great. And since he's playing the long play, I think that makes sense. But I like to focus on properties that have some value add. So maybe a B class or a C class property that could be brought up to the next level and has some work to be done so that you can force the appreciation. Because while Grant relies on the market to appreciate, which historically it has and it probably will, I like to rely on that plus what I can do. So if I can renovate this unit, if I can improve this tenant class, if I can up the rent here, there's a lot of strategies there that you can control more than right now with COVID. Market might not go up. It might, who knows? But just know the difference there. And this is another con, but this is not a con for Grant. This is a con for most investors this day. He came up at the right time. So had Grant bought $500 million worth of real estate in 2007, 2006, when he has talked about losing a lot back then, it may not have gone nearly as well, probably wouldn't have gone nearly as well as now when he's been buying in 2010, 11, 12, 30. The market has been very steadily climbing. So he got in at the right time. Now, granted, he has been through struggles. I'm not saying he hasn't. But you guys have to understand, when the market's doing this, it's much harder to lose money than when the market's doing this or doing this. So while he has done some incredible things, you got to try to make sure you put it through that filter that it's been at the right time. So who knows, realistically, I mean, it's like everything with success. There's always luck involved. And anyone who tells you it's not got luck involved just is either really arrogant or they're trying to sell you something. There's always a little bit of luck involved. I can show you two guys who did the exact same thing. One made it, one failed. I mean, who knows? It could have been that you believed in it, like the law of attraction. It could have just been your personality. People bought into you more. Could have been that you got lucky on a deal. It could have been that you, I mean, I had the deal that I'm in lawsuit about that I mentioned. Part of that is just because the seller didn't uphold his end of the contract. Now, that was bad luck. I couldn't have seen that coming. It is what it is. Had he upheld his end of the contract, I might be in a whole different world right now. Who knows? So you never know. Don't discredit that completely, but just understand that the market probably, I mean, it definitely helped him out. Now, whether he would have been successful or not without it, who knows? I'm sure he would have, but it definitely helped. With that, there's obviously survivor bias, which is just saying like, well, he made it, so he must be doing everything right. Maybe, but there's also people who didn't make it who might have done everything right, as I mentioned. And then finally, the Grant charges a 1%, from what I've been able to see, acquisition fee, annual management fee, and then fee upon the sale of the property. That's not really any different than a lot of syndicators out there, but just know when you're investing that there is money being made by him and his team, even if you're just taking your preferred return. However, if your preferred return is great and coming in and you're getting a good return on your investment, that's awesome. I think this goes in the, you know, I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's always going to be fees for people helping you out. I mean, Grant would be foolish to help you syndicate $100 million apartments and not charge for his time. Like, that doesn't make sense. So just know what you're getting into, pros and cons. A lot of that's more just syndicators in general than Grant Cardone, but that's some of my thoughts. Now, a few final thoughts. The first is, Grant, if you watch this, thank you very much for the 2019 10X Growth Con ticket that you gave to me and hundreds, if not thousands of veterans. That was huge. I mean, I flew in from Hawaii to go to your conference. It was great. I loved the time there. And I thought that was a very, very nice gesture for you to help a ton of veterans out. And I think that says a lot about you and the fact that you are genuinely trying to get out there and reach people. And I want to highlight that one of the greatest things I think you've accomplished is helping people start, right? Some of your books are incredible. Some of your books they're kind of basic concepts, right? I mean, I got this one, Be Obsessed. I mean, you could probably sum that up in a quote. I mean, the book is great, don't get me wrong, but like the whole concept could be summed up as be obsessed, don't quit, gotta be hungry. The 10X rule could be broken down very simple. They're simple concepts that Grant has taken and written entire books around, but what he's done is gotten people to start and take action. And once you take that first step and you take action, it's gonna just compound. As long as you don't quit, as long as you keep trying and you keep learning, it's going to grow, and that is incredible. So Grant, thank you very much for the help that you've given to tons of veterans, tons of non-veterans, tons of just people in general. And I know you're a huge veteran advocate, and we appreciate that. And I love that about your entire platform. Now, look, also, Grant's investors make money. If they didn't make money, they wouldn't invest again. And plenty of his investors have continued to invest with him. So you can say all this about his sales, you can say all this about his fees, but at the bottom line is that if Grant did not pay his investors and they did not make money, they would not continue to invest. His reputation is too important to him and his entire brand to let it fail by not paying people. Again, whether you like it or not. It's just like people saying he didn't parachute out of the sky at the 2019 10X Growth Conference. Well, who knows for sure, but I believe he did, because if something had gone wrong and it had been proven that it wasn't Grant who parachuted, his reputation would have, right? And his whole brand is built on reputation. He can't afford to let that slide. So Grant, I think Grant is crazy enough that he does all of this himself, and I do not doubt for a moment that he's being genuine about all this. Now, I could be wrong. There might be some proof that it otherwise, but who knows? If you watch this, Grant, I believe you're being genuine about all of that. Oh, and finally, Grant is first and foremost a marketer and a salesman. He sells, he markets. That's what he does. If that's what you hate on him about, then stop. Like, that's how he built his business. He's very good about it. He's incredible, actually, at a lot of what he does. And he's very good at the polarizing thing. So if you love him or you hate him, if you share his stuff, you're helping him out, whether you know it or not. So I think the answer here is that Grant is a marketing genius. Now, I am not saying he's not struggling. He might be struggling. A lot of people are struggling. But that's outside circumstances looking in. That doesn't necessarily say anything about him. He's still around. He's still doing this. He's still doing that. I think that this particular instance was just a very smart marketing ploy. Now, I could be wrong, but those are my thoughts. If you made it this far, I'd love to hear down below. What do you think? Bankrupt or genius? Comment down below whether Grant is bankrupt, going bankrupt, or if he's a genius. Let me know what you think. I would love some feedback, and I'm open to a good debate, so fire something up in the comments. Thanks for watching.